Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Steelers Sanctuary on YouTube. I'm your host, Dave Ribeiro from SteelersSanctuary.com and the Steelers Sanctuary podcast. We've got an exciting new segment for you this week. It's called I Said What I Said. My topic this week will be the Steelers should have drafted Creed Humphrey over Najee Harris in the 2021 NFL Draft. Now, hold on, before you get excited, before you flip your lid and trash me from here to kingdom come. Nobody's denying Najee Harris isn't a terrific running back. He is. There's no getting around it. It's that simple. But that was not the biggest need going into the 2021 season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's take a look back at the end of the 2020 season and see what was going on. The Steelers' offensive line was in a steep decline. Alejandro Villanueva was the starting left tackle, and he was a shell of his former self. He was a free agent after the end of the season, and the Steelers had no intentions of bringing him back whatsoever. At guard, David DeCastro played the entire season injured and had surgery following the season. He was never to be heard from again. I don't think we still understand what his status is or what happened. Marquise Pouncey at center, he was in a steep decline as well. He was playing poorly at the end of the season. He had a bad playoff game versus the Browns. Remember those two bad snaps, and he got beat a couple of times. He just wasn't the same player he was for all those Pro Bowl years. Matt Filer was probably the best of the bunch, and he ended up leaving as a free agent at the end of the season. I don't know why the Steelers did not re-sign him. He was clearly the only decent offensive lineman they had that season. So going into the 2021 draft, it was clear this is the big need for the Pittsburgh Steelers' offensive line. So common sense would tell you those early round picks would go in that direction. No, the Steelers drafted Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth in the first and second rounds of the NFL draft. Not bad picks by any means, but it did not solve the major problem the Steelers had, which was the offensive line. Creed Humphrey, who I wanted the Steelers to take, ended up going in the second round to the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's been terrific for them his first two seasons in the league. He's at a near Pro Bowl level at this point, and he was clearly the best offensive lineman available when the Steelers selected at 20 that season. The Chiefs also had a very bad offensive line going into that draft, and they took a very different path to solving that problem. They signed Joe Thuney, a very expensive guard and a terrific player. They traded for Orlando Brown, another terrific player, and they drafted, of course, Creed Humphrey in the second round. Fast forward to this season, the Kansas City Chiefs have the best offensive line in football, and there's an argument to be made the Steelers have the worst offensive line in football. They waited until the third round of that draft and drafted Kendrick Green. I don't know how much more needs to be said. Kendrick Green is barely a rosterable player at this point. He's not a good offensive lineman. He wasn't good at center. He's not good at guard so far this season. What else is there to say? Dan Moore was drafted in the fourth round that year. I'll give him this. He's shown signs that he could be a good left tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He needs more time, obviously. He needs time to develop. This last preseason game versus the Lions, he was not good. A couple of holding penalties. He got beat a couple times. I think PFF graded him at a 60, somewhere in that vicinity. Just not good enough. The Steelers just pieced together the rest of that offensive line that season. And if you look at going into 2022, it's not much better. The team finally spent some money in free agency on an offensive lineman, James Daniels, guard. Biggest free agent contract the Steelers have ever given out. Hasn't been good this preseason. Hasn't been good at all. In all accounts, he's been bad in camp as well. This is a disappointment for me. I trumpeted him as one of the best free agent signings of the offseason of any team. Hasn't looked that way so far, boy. We already talked about the guard position. Kendrick Green, get him off the roster. He's just not good enough. Kevin Dotson, former fourth round pick. I had high hopes for him as well. Hasn't shown it yet, man. This is going to be his third season, and we just don't know if he's an NFL caliber guard. Tackles, we already talked about Dan Moore. Chuks Okorafor, if he's your worst offensive lineman, you're in terrific shape because he's a serviceable, at best, right tackle. But unfortunately for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's one of their best offensive linemen, and that's just not good enough. Mason Cole, another free agent signing at center. Not bad. Not great, not bad, but again, if he's your best offensive lineman, you're in trouble. Heading into the 2022 season, this offensive line promises to be a weakness of the whole team. It's going to hold back the offense as a whole. This team's terrific at the skill position players. Wide receiver, we got an exciting new receiver in George Pickens. We have Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. We've got a bunch of talent. Steven Sims made the roster this season. At tight end, you've got Freiermuth, who's going to be a breakout tight end this year, I'm sure of it. But again, this offensive line is just going to hold it back. They're just not going to be good enough. Especially when it comes to quarterback. These two new quarterbacks have been great all preseason in Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. They need time to throw, and they're just not going to get it from this offense. It's just not going to. It's going to really affect their play for the season. And, geez, if they had drafted Creed Humphrey and built around him, the Steelers would be so much better off for the 2022 season. I get it. Najee Harris is a great back, and I know what you're saying. You're saying, how could we have a look at this Steelers offense without Najee Harris? Well, a lot of teams will tell you you can find a running back anywhere, and you don't have to look much further than the Steelers. They have undrafted free agent Jaylen Warren as their number 2 running back, and he's good enough to start, believe it or not. He's a terrific back. You can find backs anywhere, late in the draft, undrafted free agents that have been cut by other teams. It happens all the time in the NFL. You don't draft running backs in the first round. Teams don't do it anymore. It's an old way of thinking. These guys get beat up and they're out of the league within 3 or 4 years, especially when you draft them in the first round. It's just not good value. It's just not. So my topic for this week, when I said what I said, is the Steelers should have drafted Creed Humphrey over Najee Harris. There's no debate in my mind. There just isn't. So if you like this segment and you want to see more, please subscribe to us on SteelersSanctuary.com and Steelers Sanctuary on YouTube. We could use all the subscribers. We're new to YouTube and we need them. We also broadcast our podcasts on this, so you can check out all our podcasts on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at SteelersSank16. Follow my co-host David Korob at M_Korob. We're always giving our opinion. We're not afraid to give controversial opinions like this one today. I'm sure a lot of you will find this controversial, but I think you'll like it. Thanks, and until next time.